Hello, and welcome to another edition of Why Are You Laughing at Me with Gherkin Picklewater. Today, my guest is Katie Compa. Katie Compa is, well, I'll let her tell you about herself, but she's a stand-up comedian. And Katie, can you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Hi, I'm Katie Compa. I'm a stand-up comic. I started actually in the Bay Area, and now I live in New York. Yeah, that's about it. I kind of like I do stand-up. I work sometimes, and I watch a lot of television and listen to podcasts. So, you know,
Well, they say you gotta live the life to be able to do the work.
very true.
Um, so I guess we should start at the very beginning. What brought you to stand up in the first place?
I think a combination of a few things. First of all, my parents got divorced when I was, I think, 8, and right before that, we got cable. So that was where I went to drown my sorrows, was cable television, and it was, of course, during the stand-up boom of the '80s. So I ended up watching a lot of stand-up, and because of the network standards at the time, there was a lot of quote unquote family-friendly stand-up available. So I loved Gallagher. That was probably, if you would ask me to name my favorite comic at 8, I would have, or 9, I would have said Gallagher. He had jokes about spelling, and I loved spelling, so I was really into. I think I looked those up like last year. Like I still really like them. But also I watched a lot of Elaine Boozler specials.
Okay.
And she was, I remember being like just completely mesmerized that she was like able to stand up there and say these things and people like laughed and clapped, even though it was, because it was very feminist material. And it was just not the same thing that I saw the male comics talking about. So that was fascinating to me. I think as I got older, I wasn't like bullied necessarily, but I was excluded a lot at school. So humor became a tool for, getting people to talk to me, whether it be at school or at camp or swim team or whatever. And so, yeah, humor is kind of a survival mechanism in my life. It always has been.
Yeah, I always wanted. I mean, I'm a professional comedy person now as well. But as a child and adolescent and teen, I always wanted to be funny and never was. I never developed that specific survival instinct. I developed the taste and the palate and can do refine my own work. But at that point, it was just beyond me, and it's something I desperately wanted in my youth. So. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
slightly
for a
different.
long time, people could really smell the desperation on me. They could like really sense it, and that's not gonna make you any friends.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, definitely like middle school was probably the hardest, but I remember I went to a summer camp every summer, and like there was one year where I like didn't have any friends one summer, and then the next summer I went back and I had like figured out my humor, and somebody was like, "You've changed so much. You were so annoying last year, and this year you're really cool." I was like, "Okay," and you're a bitch, like
um,
Jackie.
Speaking of '80s comics, I think for me the ones because I was my parents got divorced when I was 1. Ooh,
You win
but
this one.
the '80s comics that really did a lot for me were people like Rick Overton. Do you remember him?
Vaguely. Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of the he ended up being one of the little brownie people in uh, a popular that Warwick Davis Willow. That's what it was in Willow.
Oh, okay.
That was I
Sure.
think
Yeah.
the biggest break he ever got was he played a brownie in Willow.
That was a
But
huge movie.
also Judy Tenuta
Uh-huh.
and Emo Phillips and people like that did a lot for me back in that day. Um, so in your work, in your comedy, what are you reaching for? What are you trying to accomplish?
I think at the end of the day, it's really I'm trying to make sense of life. Like just it's so absurd. So much of it is so absurd, and what we do to each other is so absurd. But we all agree to keep going on like this. Yeah, I think it's just like I remember reading. I don't even know what it was, but it was something about like what's the meaning of life. And I remember being a kid and being like, "What do you mean? What's the meaning of life? Don't even worry about it. Life has meaning." And now, like as I got older, and now still to this day, I'm like, "What is the point of like? What is the meaning of this? Wait a minute. Like, is it a simulation? So it's just trying to make sense of this insane world that we all live in. I think. And I remember also when I was obsessed. I'm still kind of obsessed with things being fair or unfair. And I remember saying something to my mom. I can't remember what I was fighting with her about. It was like my sister got something and I didn't, and I did the classic line, "It's not fair." And she said to me, "Life isn't fair." And I was like, "What? Life isn't fair? This is not going to go well for me." And I'm still mad about it. So that's mostly what I'm talking about. This how things aren't fair.
Oh, Um, the, the yes. um, uh, in my work, a lot of it is absurdity. It's there's a lot of dark humor and absurdist humor in what I do and what I create, um, and a lot of yearning. And
Hmm.
I think I can see that, feel that yearning for justice and fairness. And there's definitely in my one man show there's definitely um, a deep seated lack of fairness that that person is experiencing. That gives its edge.
Yeah.
Um,
Yearning is really having a trend moment right now because of heated rivalry. Everybody's really into yearning.
I
So,
haven't seen it yet.
oh,
Yeah,
I've
so
seen
don't
it
spoil
several
it.
times.
Oh, nice,
Yeah. And now
nice.
I yearn to see it again, if you will.
Okay. Um, Wild left turn. What role do you want to have in society?
Like a George Carlin situation
Okay.
where, I just, it's really like, I still think comedy is about telling the truth, even though I would say less and less commercial comedy is about that. But, like, I would say the best compliments I've gotten, one of the best compliments I ever got was I did a show and I was just kind of like doing my normal material about it. I was in my 30s at the time and I was talking about being single in my 30s. And a girl came up to me after the show who knew that I knew her. She was friends with the host and she was like, did Carrie tell you to do that material about me and my life? And I was like, no, that was about me and my life, But she was like, oh my God, I thought you wrote like custom material because I related to it so hard.
Wow.
So that's really what does it for me is, being able to say something that's so relatable that people think it's about them. Because there are these universal experiences that we have that we can't have with one another. So yeah, that's satisfying.
When you're building your work, I find there's at least in my community, clown.
Mm-hmm.
There's two main perspectives when building work, which is I want to build something the audience is going to laugh at, or I want to build something that I'm going to laugh at, and often those two are very different drives. I'm a, I don't want to make any assumptions, but where do you come from when trying to build your work, and more importantly, do you have a framework for knowing if something's going to be good before you get it in front of an audience?
Uh, so I'll answer the second one first. No, I don't know. It's usually, so I know clowning is very much like it's part of the training that you check in with the audience like a lot. Like it's mostly about your relationship with the audience. And I think stand up is that way as well. But when I'm working on stuff, it's usually something that I think is true and outrageous. And then it's something that I need to say, but I have to find a way to make it funny and relatable. So I usually get up there with something that is not funny. And then I have to find where I can make it, funny enough for it to be like, it's kind of like sugarcoating uphill.
Yeah.
So I can get my truth out there without people feeling like I'm preaching to them, which I think, as much as I love George Carlin, I think came off a little preachy sometimes.
Okay.
Um, but I'm not saying that I don't do that or that I no, won't in the future, but.
Yeah. No, I can see that. So how you talk you I said the word justice. You said fairness,
Mhm.
but you talked about what is essentially equity and equality. How do you go about creating change?
In the world.
Yeah.
I definitely when I started comedy, I had delusions of grandeur, I think, where I would have a lot more power to like make an influence on the industry. And now that I'm a little bit more familiar with the industry and how it works, even if I were huge, I don't think I would have that much power to do that. But whatever scale I'm at, I am going to try to make it, as fair as possible and give opportunities to, comedians who might not get as much stage time, even if it's something as small as that. Stage time is really important. So I try to make sure, I book a couple shows and I try to make sure those lineups are as diverse as they can be. I try to just keep an eye out for people that I might be able to, you know, give a spot to or give some advice to or anything to help them navigate. And I don't think that I can navigate the industry. I don't think I can help anybody with that. I just have too much of a truth complex. But yeah, just anytime I can like connect with somebody and offer them, even if it's just emotional support, I try to do that.
Yeah. For me, it's very similar. I feel really strongly about creating work for the people in my community. You
Hmm.
know, giving people jobs, even if it's a day job. You
Hmm.
know, but giving people work in my community. I produced a number of shows for a number of years at the one theater that was the most clown friendly in San Francisco, and that was all about trying to create community and create something inside of that community. And it sounds like community is a chunk of what you're trying to build as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's really once I kind of got over myself and didn't make success the thing, like external measures of success, as soon as I stopped kind of pinning my own self-worth to that, it was really community was and is where I find the value. So seeing these people every week, seeing what they have to say, seeing how we can relate to each other, and we do. I just on this trip that I did last week, I we went to it's a speakeasy bar in Portland, Maine, and they have a comedy night every Thursday, and it's pretty tucked away, so it can be hard to find. But we hung out with the host after, and it's like that post show hang with other comics where you get to talk about whatever topic comes into your mind. That's some of the most nurturing stuff that I can get for my life overall and for my comedy. Like I really
Uh,
love doing that.
that's why I do this podcast, just because I want to be able to talk to people about what they think is funny and why.
Yeah.
And we haven't asked you that yet, but before we get to that, you mentioned success. So outside of building community, how do you measure success for you? What is your metric?
That is definitely a an open question at the moment because I had a steady day job for years and years, and it's kind of drying up now partly because of AI, partly because just the economy is kind of just screwed right now. Like I don't know really anybody who's having an easy time finding a job, and I have still like a quarter of a job, so I'm trying to hang on to that with both hands. And okay, sorry, what was the question? Can you ask me again? I have
Um,
ADHD.
Success. How do you
Success,
measure
right? Okay.
success? What's your metric?
Yeah. It's really like, am I enjoying my life day to day and without screwing myself over in old age or screwing anybody else over? Am I like being as positive as I can and not hurting anyone in the process and helping people if I can?
That's lovely. Yeah, and we're not in a great place,
Right.
and it's really about lifting each other up and getting through this and getting to the other side of whatever that looks like
Yeah.
in one piece as a society and a community. Um, so, who are some of your heroes? You mentioned Carlin. You mentioned Gallagher.
Hmm.
Who are some of your heroes? Who do you hope in some way to emulate?
I try to not have heroes per se
Okay.
because when I started stand up, like I would say my biggest hero was Dave Chappelle.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, had some I've reckoned with him. I don't know if he has, but yeah, but like Rosie O'Donnell, I watched her all the time and I still think she's so funny. And I think she lives in Ireland now and I go there occasionally and it's like so it's possible I could run into her. And I really do. I think the advice about not don't never meeting your heroes is probably good advice, but I would have to obviously I'd suck it up and meet her if I had to. Kathy Griffin is another one who I watched
Yeah.
all of her specials starting in college. Um and also kind of a cautionary tale just watching what she went through being in the business and being so outspoken and kind of saying what she wants, like you end up paying for that, spiritually and monetarily in many cases, and I'm not as good with money as she is. She's definitely got a really tight handle on her finances and I do not have that. I am just, if I have money I'm like giving it away. So yeah, and then my other heroes are like, it's funny because I have like those heroes who I've never met, and then the people who are kind of have been in my life day to day who are my heroes. So, like a lot of the people that I started with in the Bay Area doing stand up there, and a lot of my friends here that I see at open mics and at my show and at their shows. It's really, well, I think I said nurturing already, but it is really nurturing to have day to day heroes in my life.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I don't know if I can say heroes, but some of my favorite performers in my art form are people that I know. You know.
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
yeah, it's like you're like, this is a crime. How does the world not know about these incredibly talented people? But it's just not set up that way.
yeah.
So
Is there in your growth as an artist? Is there influences that you feel are underrated, things that you think that more people should be exposed to, uh, in the field that you're in comedy?
Yeah, I think I was affected by this. You know, it's really like if you don't go see live comedy, you can't really like you can't get it from watching it on TV. Like you're gonna get it's gonna be very commercial, it's gonna be very edited. And going to live comedy shows, you know, and that's I'm not saying like just go to one. Just don't even look into it at all. Like you have to do your research because there are definitely some real bad comedy shows out there. I have been at them. I have been on a couple. So, you know, um, but I think there is so much, especially in stand up, there's so much good comedy out there that you're just never going to see if you're trying to find it on YouTube or on TV, or on social media, you know. Um, so yeah, I think that would be my biggest thing is like kind of just get out there and whatever your interest is, whatever your art form is, get out there and see people do it live if you can.
You can't see much clown in our society. What's actually clown? Now, I'm not talking about people in a yama and a fright wig twisting balloons, which is clown, which is it's on the spectrum of what my form is. But actual clown, you don't see much in media. Natalie Padlamides, if I'm saying
Yep.
that right, she had that special on Netflix, Nate, and that was amazing. That was a great piece of clown.
Mm-hmm.
And Dropout has been doing some clown, stand up, some specials, like one person shows that definitely fall into clown.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, it's just so hard to find in our society, people doing my art form, and especially people doing it well.
Totally. I mean, I definitely think clown is one of it like never had a really mainstream moment the way that stand up did. And I agree it's totally underrated. And I have not seen enough of it myself, so I should seek to rectify that in the coming.
I've got shows in the Hollywood Fringe
Oh, nice.
this year that
Uh-huh.
I'm
I
really
actually know
thrilled with.
another clown going to the Fringe. I'll have to
Oh, which
look
one?
you up. Her name is. We just stayed with her, and her name is. Her last name is Perkins. She lives in Boston. I'll have to look it up.
Okay, yeah, I know one other artist, Jonas Wolverton, who's doing a kind of John McEnroe thing,
Uh-huh.
but sexy and funny. So, and he does
Okay,
serial.
Elizabeth Perkins. Sorry.
Elizabeth
Yeah,
Perkins.
got it.
Okay, no, I think I someone mentioned her already before, so I'll try and connect on some level with her. Um, in coming up in comedy, did you have a mentor at all?
No, I went to in San Francisco. There used to be a comedy college, the San Francisco Comedy College,
Oh,
and it was like downtown. It was on Geary Street, and it was above. Do you remember Ruby Sky?
yeah, yeah.
It was in the same building as Ruby Sky, so it was like on the fifth floor, and it was like an office suite. And then so I took a bunch of classes there for like over a year. Like it was definitely my safe space, and um, I probably should have broken out of it sooner, but it was such a safe space. And like I'm still really good friends with a lot of people I met there. I don't know if you know Natasha Muse, Joseph Nguyen. They're both locals. They're still in the comedy scene in the Bay Area, which is amazing. Um, and one of the teachers there is this guy, Joe Klosick, who I don't think he's doing that anymore, but he is just one of the most talented people. And, you know, he helped me with a lot of material when I was developing material, and he encouraged me to go down to the punchline and hang out at the punchline, which didn't work out for me, but he was right. Um, and just having somebody who was like, who I thought was funny, be like, yeah, you're funny, you could do this. That just meant the world. You
Yeah.
know, I don't know if I ever would have stuck because I did it once at work. My boss encouraged me to try it, and I bombed so hard that I didn't do it again until I moved to San Francisco. You know, so
Yeah, new place, new you.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I have a few people who are mentor like, and definitely a huge part of what I received from them was permission via encouragement to
Mm-hmm.
pursue this form, to pursue what I was doing, that I could be, one of the greats. I mean that wasn't necessarily true.
I mean,
It
but
definitely did
yes, it
happen.
is. Yes, it is. You know, it's just like, will it happen? Who's to say?
Yeah,
Truly, there is no rhyme or reason to this. But
yeah.
that doesn't mean that you're not one of the greats, you know?
We talk about how inspiration, perspiration, whatever. How so much of being successful in entertainment in general, but in comedy specifically, is just the luck of the draw.
Hmm.
but you have to be prepared if you get
Right.
that draw. You have to be ready to step up and do the work
Yeah.
and be good if you are someone who gets lucky enough to get those breaks and get that real exposure and
Hmm.
that be able to hold on to that audience once you've got it.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm working on right now is trying to figure out what I'm good at.
Hmm.
I know what I do and I know what I do well, but boiling that down to just a couple of things and focusing on building skills that support that is a
Right.
big part of the work that I'm working on right now.
Yeah.
In working on yourself and your comedy, what are you working on?
At my old job, we did like some sort of offsite. We did like 12 offsite retreats. And one of the axioms that I took away from that is like good to great is much easier than mediocre to good. So I try to focus on the things I do well, which I think is, writing punchlines. I actually have a few writing partners that we kind of collab on just ideas and developing material. I'm working on my timing. I talk fast, as you probably can hear. And that is like my main challenge. I've definitely, since I started doing comedy, we're like, people would come up to me and be like, that was so great. Once you talk slower, you're going to be like really good. And I was like, okay, well, that's never going to happen because I started comedy in 2007 and I have not been able to slow down and I don't see it coming anytime soon. I have a track on my new album that talks about that. So,
Um, Speaking of your new album, I do want to talk about that in just a moment. But and maybe this is the answer to this question. But what project that you've done or set or whatever are you the most proud of?
uh, probably my first album. And then I have an idea that I'm like, I'm not proud of it yet because it's not there. But I did a one woman show, like a very rudimentary, like 40-minute version, um, called "Why Haven't You Heard of Me?" And it's about fame and measuring success via how many people know who you are, or like how much money you have, or how you're getting cast in things. And there are just so many good reasons to be thankful to not be famous. Um, and that's another. I'm really proud of the idea, and I think there's a lot to say that people can connect with in it, but I haven't quite refined the material to the point that it's ready to film or put out or take to a festival or something like that. So
Can you tell me a little bit about what you're working on right now?
well, right now I'm just focused on getting the album out and trying to line up a few tour dates to support it through the end of the year. So I'm probably going to Europe in the fall. I'm going to try to get out to the Bay. I haven't been out to the Bay in like 3 years, and then hopefully do some probably LA. It's definitely like because I'm just kind of a one person shop, so there's nobody to like be like, hey, I lined you up these dates. Like here's some, like working with
Yeah,
you. I did hire somebody to help me with publicity for this, and that's been a lot easier because they're like, we reached out to this person, they're free this date, can you do it? And I'm like, this is so much easier than trying to email
yeah.
producers who I don't know, basically cold calling, although we don't do cold emailing, to try to get my name out there. And I have a distaste for social media and a distaste for the entertainment industry in general, so I'm not doing myself any favors either.
Can you tell me about the album?
Sure. It's called Incurable Optimist. And it is, I think if you listen to it, like it's a title track is the first track. And so there is a specific thing that I'm optimistic about, but I also am, even though I'm a huge misanthrope, I am optimistic about what we can do, in our time on this earth. So as much as I'm like kind of shitting on things, I try to do it with a little bit of a vision for, I think like you were saying before, when we make it through this, what's next, like we can do better and maybe we'll have a chance to do that.
Yeah, that's yes. That's I feel very much the same way. I am uh, one of those introverted extroverts where because of my
Yeah, same
job
here.
and
Yep.
both my day job and my
Hmm.
and my performing career have to be a people person, and I
Hmm.
am not a people person, and I don't like being around them. They make too much noise.
Yeah, and
It's
especially
it's
since the
hard on me.
pandemic, I used to be able to put up with it more, but since the pandemic, like I had the flu a few weeks ago, and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to see anybody for 10 days, and I was like, I am ready for this. I trained for this. I love being alone in my apartment, knowing that no one is coming over unless I ordered food. Like it's yeah, people are, and I also was like, wow, I didn't know that I had faith in humanity to lose in the pandemic, but I did, and I did lose it. Um so yeah, there's a bit of that too, a dash of bitterness, I would say, on top of the optimism.
Oh. but still, I mean, we'll get through it
Yeah.
in the long run.
Yeah, something's
Um,
next, and I don't claim to know what it is, and I'm
yeah,
could be excited, could be scared to find out, but it's going to be something.
something that my wife and I have a regular, an ongoing back and forth about is what we do after the collapse, and
Hmm.
I think live performance will still be a viable career.
Absolutely.
But she thinks I should fall back on learning how to make shoes, which is something I've always wanted to do.
Both of
Um,
those are a trade, so
yeah,
they're
but
both
it seems to
totally valid.
me it's the whole good to great versus medium to good. Like
Uh-huh. Hmm.
I know how to do live performance. I don't have the slightest idea on how to start learning to make shoes. And
Yeah.
I've looked for courses and stuff,
Hmm.
and I found one fancy thing in New York that was thousands of dollars, and that was it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm not going to New York for 6 weeks to learn how to make women's shoes. I want to make
Right.
general all-purpose apocalypse clothing.
Yeah. And
Um,
that it's something that I think about is like so many, like I have a marketing job and that is a pretend job. It's like it's an email job because I don't do anything. I like send emails to people about like brochures. It's not, I really feel like performance is more of a product that people can really use in
mhm.
their life than my dumb marketing job. So,
Yeah,
with apologies to my bosses who very grateful.
I I work for a boutique culture production studio in San
Oh, cool.
Francisco.
Okay.
So we do big street festivals, and
Hmm.
I'm after decades of event production, I'm now like the HR person instead, and I just mainly hire people and stuff,
Uh-huh.
and which is great, giving people work, but that means anyway, it's it's again not a skill that I'd be using after the fall. Uh,
Right. Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any of those. I'm honestly like, take me out in the first wave. I don't have nothing to offer and I don't want to fight my way through anything. So,
All right. So just a couple quick questions, and then we'll wrap it
mhm.
up.
Okay.
Pros and cons of working in your field.
Pros, it's one big pro, and it's the people that I get to meet. Like my favorite and least favorite thing about stand up is that anyone can do it. So I have, I have become acquainted with both the best people in the world and the worst people in the world, especially doing it in New York, where like people come from all over the world to do stand up here. Um, Cons, it's super sexist, super racist, just the country in general, but also the entertainment industry in particular. Um, the rejection is constant. So you have to really build up a thick skin. And I've never been able to do that. See what I said before about middle school. So, um, yeah, I think it's trying to deal with rejection and keeping your confidence is probably like the biggest challenge in my life, both inside and outside of comedy. But huge con.
Yeah, yeah, that's big. Um, all right. So you got the album coming out. When does it come out?
Mhm. It comes out Thursday, April 30th on, I believe, all digital platforms. I only have the pre-save link for Spotify so far, but it should be on Apple Music, Spotify, Qobuz, which is my platform of choice because they pay triple the artist royalties. Not a lot of people know that.
Oh, nice.
They're French.
Co
Yeah, it's
Co Buzz.
QOBUZ. Hmm.
What? Say that
It's like
again.
it's an ancient like QOBUZ. It's
Okay.
like a medieval instrument, like a lute of some
Okay.
type, I think.
That's
Yeah.
very cool. Um,
Mhm.
I just want- I in my one man show, I started doing stand up for the first time. You mentioned anyone can do it, and I do like a minute and a half and
Hmm.
of pieces that I've written, and though the last piece is a joke that an interpretation of a joke that I heard from a 6 year old, um, which is why did the mouse go to prison?
Why?
Crimes. And see, and that's a
Fair
joke that
enough.
only people who are into comedy laugh at, and most people just
Yeah.
like, what? Where's the joke? I'm just like the joke is there. That is the joke.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking of
It's
which,
funny because it's true.
it doesn't have to be your favorite, and it doesn't even have to be one of your own. But can you tell me a joke?
I will tell you one of my own. I just posted it the other day, so it's top of mind. Oh, and I should say, I think I said Elizabeth Perkins. Her name is Julie Perkins, the clown.
Julie Perkins. Okay.
So Julie Perkins, yeah. So look her up. Okay, so the joke is, I'm a Capricorn. I have a January birthday, which means that a lot of people end up coming to my birthday party talking about how like this year is going to be different. I really don't need that energy. But more importantly, I don't think I've had a birthday party since I was 21, 22, where somebody didn't show up talking about how they're doing sober January. And I'm like, I don't care if you want to do sober January, but don't make it a thing at my birthday party because I don't do that to you. I don't come to your birthday party in April and blow up your bathroom in honor of IBS Awareness Month. and
Very
I
nice.
could.